All right, first I'm gonna set my project. I'm gonna go to File, Set Project, and I'm gonna find our weight exercises. And again, I'm gonna click on the project, not in any of those folders, right? So I'm gonna hit Choose, and I'm going to open a scene that has the 3 balls. Notice that by setting the project, Maya knows where to go. So I'm gonna start with my weight exercises resized. And the reason why I picked this file is because this file right here, we resize the balls based on actual world units. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to rig this soccer ball right here. So I'm gonna select my beach ball. I'm gonna put my beach ball on a layer. So I clicked on this icon on the very far right hand corner, and I can double click on layer 2 on the name, and I'm gonna call this one beach underscore ball, and I can give it a color. So I'm gonna select this red right here. Now this one is for my soccer ball. So I'm gonna name this layer soccer ball, and I'm gonna select a color. So now I can hide my beach ball. I'm gonna select the bowling ball, and I'm gonna put it on a new layer. So bowling ball, and I'm gonna give it a color. Hit save, and I'm gonna hide the bowling ball. Now we're gonna ring this character right here. I'm gonna set it on the XYZ coordinate. So I'm gonna select everything right here, type in 0. I'm gonna go to my custom menu where I have delete history, freeze transformation, and center pivot. I don't want any history attached to my geometry. I don't want any translate, rotate, and scale. We 0 everything except for the scale. The scale should always be 1. And I wanna center my pivot for now. So if I hit W for move tool, notice that this center pivot is in the middle. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a NURBS curve, which is gonna be our controller. Okay, so we will use that NURBS curve to control the movement of the ball. We're not gonna select the geometry. You do not wanna select the geometry. So to create that, we are gonna go to Curves and Surfaces, and I'm gonna click on the very first icon, which is the NURBS circle. When I click on it, notice that it puts it right here at the XYZ coordinate, and I'm gonna hit R for scale, and I'm gonna scale it. Well, this is gonna be my main controller. This is what we're gonna use to move our ball, to set the keys once I get my main controller where I want. Again, I'm gonna go to my custom shelf. I'm gonna delete the history. I'm gonna freeze its transformation, and I'm gonna center the pivot. So this is my main controller. Now we can change the color of our controllers. If we select this NURBS curve right here and we go to the attribute editor, what we wanna do is we wanna find our NURBS circle shape. We are gonna go to object display, and inside of the object display submenu, we have another menu called drawing override. When I enable the override, I can override the color that it comes with. So for example, if I select this yellow right here and then click on my canvas, notice that my main controller now, the color has turned yellow. The reason why we use NURBS curves as our controllers is because they do not render. Okay, so I have changed the color of my curve. Now it's time to change the name. Now, I don't like to do this on the attribute editor, and I'm gonna go to my outliner perspective view, and I'm gonna double click on this name, and I'm gonna call this main control underscore curve, CRV. Now, I need to create an additional channel inside of this controller where we will be able to control the stretch and squash that we're gonna attach to the sphere. I wanna control everything from the main controller. What we need to create a new channel where we will be able to key that stretch and squash for the sphere. So you select your main controller, and we are gonna go to edit, and we are gonna go to add attribute. So now what we wanna do is we wanna add an attribute called squash, leave everything by default. So it's gonna be keyable float. As soon as you hit OK, notice that you get your stretch and squash right here. You can click on the name, and with the middle mouse button, notice that we can go all the way from negative to positive numbers, and we can select this, type in 0, and reset it. Now, what we need to do is we need to create the squash deformer for our soccer ball right here. So I'm gonna go to my side view. So I'm holding the space bar. I'm gonna go to the right view to add a deformer under the deform menu. And what we're gonna use a nonlinear deformer called the squash. The very first thing that I do every time I select a new tool or a new menu is that I reset it. I go to Edit, Reset it. So in order to apply this squash deformer to an object, you have to select the object, and then we're going to go to Create. Notice that we have a squash right here, and the way that we're going to control how much is going to squash this soccer ball is we're going to go to the factor, and this is how we're going to control our stretch and squash. So we want to apply this factor attribute to this newly created squash attribute in the main controller. We're going to have to link these two together. So the way that we're going to do this, we're going to use the connection editor. Windows, General Editors, Connection Editor. Again, we are going to connect the factor attribute of our stretch and squash to this value right here inside of the channels for our main controller. So we got to load these up in the right order. So the way that you read this is that the left side is going to control the right side. That's why we have from to. So we need to select this controller right here and click on reload left. And notice that at the very, very bottom, we're going to have our squash attribute. Now we have to go to our squash handle, and we want to be able to add the squash factor right here on the reload right. I'm going to go to the squash handle. I can click on the word squash 1, and then I can go reload right, and notice that our factor is right here now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select squash, and then I'm going to select factor. I'm going to test it out by selecting my main controller. I can tell right away that there's a connection because my squash handle has turned pink. This means that there is a connection there. So again, click on the squash middle mouse button, go left and right, and there it is, it's connected. I'm going to zero my squash. I'm going to close the connection editor. And now what we need to do is to create another controller that is going to allow us to spin this ball in one of our views. Since we are going to deal with a side view, I'm going to go to spacebar, right view. Now this is where I'm going to do my animation. I'm going to go to curves and surfaces. I'm going to click on a NURBS curve. I'm going to scale it, connection at E for rotation, and I'm going to slightly rotate it. There it is. Now I notice that the rotation is on Z, so I'm going to type in 90 degrees, and there's our curve. So I'm going to scale it until it fits the size of my soccer ball. I'm going to move it up. There it is. Now to center this controller to our soccer ball, I can hold the V key, which is going to snap to point, and then I can middle mouse drag it and then snap it to my squash handle right here, this blue line right here. And there it is. This curve is center. I'm going to scale it a little bit more. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to use this to control the rotation of our soccer ball. All right, so now it's time to freeze the transformation, delete the history, and center the pivot point of this controller. I'm going to go to Custom, delete history, freeze transformation, center pivot. Now, what we need to do is we need to change the color again of this curve. So I'm going to go to the attribute editor. Okay, don't go to the NURBS circle node, go to the NURBS circle shape, which I will go here and rename it as rotate controller curve. Now I'm going to go to the object display, drawing overrides. I'm going to click on the enable override, and I'm going to select another color that I can see. For example, this red. And as you can see right now, I have a controller that is going to control the rotation of this sphere in this direction like this. And then I have this controller, which will allow us to move our soccer ball and then key it. So let me undo everything. Let me make sure that this curve right here is all zeroed in. Yes. The controller. Let me select the controller. Everything is zeroed in. This stretch and squash has been connected, as you can see. Let me zero it. Now that everything is connected, what we're going to do is we're going to set up the squash to occur at the bottom of the ball. So we are going to go to our squash handle right here. We're going to select it, and we're going to move it down. When we do that, if I select my curve and I go to squash and add a little bit of squash, and then I select my squash handle and move it down, notice that we get this effect right here. That is because we have added a squash, and now we're moving the area of influence away from the ball. So we're going to snap this squash handle by holding the X key. We're going to snap it to the floor right here. And now we are going to go to our squash 1, and we're going to increase the high bound. So we're moving the area of influence to the top. So visually what you want to do is you want to make sure that the high bound right here visually is the same distance as the low bound right here to your object. So it looks like I have something probably like a high bound of 3, and I'm going to test it out. I'm going to select my main controller. I'm going to go to squash. First I'm going to type in 0, and then with selecting the name, middle mouse, drag left and right, I'm going to make sure that the squash works like this. And there you have it. And now what we need to do, we need to start parenting things together. So the way that we're going to do this is I have these two curves. This is my main controller. This will control everything. It will control this curve, it will control the sphere, the soccer ball, and it will control the deformer. So what I need to do is I need to first select my sphere. You move your mouse inside of the outliner, you hit F, and it will find it for you. So middle mouse, drag it out, okay? Or what you can do is, let me do an undo. You can go to Edit, Ungroup, and Unparent, and it will drag it out. So I have the soccer ball, then I have the rotate controller. So the rotate controller, it's going to control the soccer ball. So let me drag this guy inside here. And as you can see, if I select my curve, my rotate controller, and I hit E for rotation, and I rotate it, notice that is controlling the ball. So we are going to use this controller right here to key our soccer ball rotation. Okay. Now these guys will be controlled by our main controller. Now the last thing that we want is we want that stretch and squash to be controlled by the main controllers. So wherever I move the main controller, it will move the stretch and squash deformer plus this curve, which is the rotation curve, and this curve controls the soccer ball. So again, I'm going to select the squash handle, middle mouse drag it to the main controller, and then I'm going to select the rotate controller, middle mouse drag it to our main controller. As you can see right now, if I select the main controller, it selects everything. It selects the rotate controller, which controls the soccer ball, but it also selects the squash handle. So what I can do, if I select my main controller, I can go to my, let me hit Q, I can go to my squash, add a squash, something like this. But then I can select my rotate controller, hit E, and I can rotate it, and notice that the soccer ball will rotate within that deformation. So no matter what your rotation angle is, when your ball lands, you can add this stretch and this squash. And again, we are going to control the stretch and squash using the main controller right here. So if I go to stretch and squash and type in 0, there you have it. If I select this rotation handle, I can go to the rotate and X and type in 0. And now I can select this main controller and I can move everything. So the main controller, if I go to my right view, will be used to set the keys for the bouncing of the ball, the up and down movement, the movement on Z and on Y. Let me zero everything right here. And then this rotation controller will be used to key the rotation of our ball. And again, from the main controller, I'll be able to control the stretch and squash and set the keys right here. Once everything is selected, what I can do, I can select my squash handle 1. I can go to visibility and I can type in 0, and this will hide our squash controller, deformer. And then what I can do with the soccer ball, since the soccer ball is in this layer right here, I can reference my soccer ball. So now I won't be able to grab the soccer ball no matter what happens.